And welcome to the daily space weather, folks. Looking at the sun at 193 angstroms, we see 0 sunspots, a fairly diffuse coronal hole there, just rising east of center there, south of the equator. Pretty low solar activity, and let's look at some more views, such as the GOES X-ray imager. There's the X-ray environment. Let me zoom out so we can see the timestamps. There you go. There is some activity rising up here in the east, as well as some activity setting over here in the west. All is along the equator. And let's look at another view here, the 304 angstroms view. There you have that. And let's look at some more stuff. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is actually at 69 now. Just on top of this orange line here, which I've drawn in to show you around where solar minimum looks like. Let's talk about funding the channel. Our regular viewers are well aware that YouTube pays us precisely nothing for these videos. So please support us via Patreon. The incentive is that you will receive stuff more quickly than everybody else, as we come out with certain material on this channel long before anybody else. And we detect things that other channels never see, such as coronal mass ejections, small ones, as we did a few days ago. Anyway, support us via Patreon. Don't join at the $1 level, join at the $9.99 gold level, as the $1 level is going to evaporate on Halloween, so don't be on the wrong side of that. You can also donate via PayPal or the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, which is also linked below the video in the description box. The Spaced Out campaign specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. There's a teaser of some of the products. Again, click the link, support the channel via our affiliate, Hemp Lucid, the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign. Let's talk about David Dubine's book, as we've been doing it all month, as September is Disaster Preparedness Month. Now, one of the ways to prepare for a disaster is to hold good money. Yes, that's right. Diversify your portfolio, folks. Are you familiar with the wealth effect? Well, the wealth effect is when people look at the 401ks and they say, I'm rich, I can spend lots of money. Well, there's also a reverse wealth effect, folks, which means when the stock market crashes, people stop spending money. Now, it's just an effect. It doesn't really have anything to do with the fundamentals. And often good companies lose share price just because other companies in their sector have come out with bad news, bad earnings, etc. So follow the standard advice. Have 10% of your investment portfolio invested in precious metals such as silver or gold. I mean, preferably physical silver or gold, as if there's a major grid down situation, any kind of a major disruption in financial entities, those who have physical gold and silver will be able to barter and trade. As you know, most money is electronic nowadays. If you're interested in buying the book, head to oiledseedcrops.org. That's oiledseedcrops.org/climate-revolution book, one word. It's $12.95, and we are looking to get Mr. Dubine on the station soon, in the next couple of days, to just talk about the book briefly, do a little 10-minute plug. Let's look at some more data, such as the real-time solar wind. We see a phi angle has just recently shifted in the past 6 hours up to 320 degrees. Solar wind density, around 6 protons per cubic centimeter there. Actually, it looks like, 6.45 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed, around 370, so it's pretty nominal conditions there, nothing too exciting to comment on there. KP was at geomagnetic unrest there, and it looks like just a magnetic field thing, and that's associated with that shift in the phi angle. And back down to 1, so KP currently at 1, folks. Now, shout out to Snowflake for requesting that we show the Dobbs object. So here's the geospace magnetosphere movie looking at the velocity. And since there is no Dobbs object, and there's absolutely no proof that there is a Dobbs object out there, we're not going to talk about it anymore other than to say, there's the velocity. Don't expect this to be an everyday thing. Here's the density. 4 hours of data, courtesy University of Michigan Geospace Model. And we'll let that play all the way through before looking at also the pressure. And there's the pressure. We archive this data daily, as it is not accessible once it is passed. So if you want to see this data, you need to rip it onto your screen in real time somehow with a screen capture software or something like that. And you can let this thing sit there and play all day if you really want to. Let's move on to more stuff like the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. For those of you not aware, thanks new viewers by the way, we have two North Poles. There's one over Siberia and there's one over northeastern Canada. And the South Pole is creeping into the Indian Ocean. Anyway, there's 4 hours of the ground geospace magnetic perturbations, and let's keep this thing moving as there's quite a bit of stuff to cover. Here are the ionosphere movie, looking at 6 hours of the ionosphere here, and it's looking pretty anomalous on the sun-facing side and fairly normal on the nighttime side. No other comment other than there's the latest image. As we approach the equinox, which is on the 23rd, we will be live streaming for the equinox, folks. We see some oddities there in the X-ray flux. Nothing to really write home about. No X-ray flares even in the B-class range since July 7th. There's the GOES electron flux. And at more moderate levels here, nothing resembling charging hazards. The relativistic electrons at the greater than 2 mega electron volts has calmed down a little bit also into more of a nominal range for that. Again, charging hazards are pretty much non-existent. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. Here's where stuff's located in the solar system. If you are viewing the video from a different solar system, galaxy, plane of existence, dimension, or perhaps a different multiverse, please leave a comment as we are interested in your thoughts on cosmology. And there's where things will be in 1 week. There's the GOES magnetometer looking a little more normal here. And here's the Gong 2 data. Still looks like there could be a sunspot forming there, folks. Would not be surprised. This area here underneath my pointer cannot seem to make up his mind. And there's the last image. You see this area out here where there's just, it looks like hovering plasma. That could be a sunspot in there. And if it is, we would expect it to be south of the equator. So that's something to keep an eye on, the eastern limb of the sun. Here's where stuff is above my head right now. And check out in-the-sky.org. Make your own star chart. Figure out when things will happen. Today's featured star is Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse. The largest single star visible to the naked eye alone. A red supergiant that would take up the entire size of Mars's orbit if it was here in our solar system. We see a small swarm of earthquakes there in Alaska. Let's look at the rest of the earthquakes over the past 24 hours. Here about 22 hours ago, we see a 4.8 at Indonesia. Next, we see a 4.7 at Japan. Here's a 5.1 in China. Here's a 4.5 in Iran. It looks like we see 3 Middle Eastern quakes there. Here's a 4.4 at Chile. 4.5 at Nepal. 4.5 at Chile. That one at depth heads up western South America. You've been seeing deep quakes for months, and we've been warning and warning. Still having a magnitude 6 and 7 earthquake drought, folks. And guess how those end? In 6 and 7 magnitude earthquakes, sometimes even larger. So please have a plan if you're in an earthquake-prone area. Have a bug-out bag. Be an asset, not a liability, in the event that buildings start to fall down. Next on the list, we get to 4.7. This one taking place at 1614 UTC in China. Here's a 4.5 in Iran. Heads up, Iranian viewers, if you're able to view this video, please leave a comment. Here's a 4.4 also in Iran. So a little uptick there. How about a 4.3 at Chile? That one at 98 kilometers depth. Close enough to be considered a blot echo quake, folks. How about a 4.3 in Iran? Deep quake hits Tonga, 4.9. This one about 8 hours ago. The depth 192.7 kilometers, and a 4.7 nearby at 205 kilometers depth. Largest quake of the past 24 came in about 6 hours ago here at Willow, Alaska. Let's zoom in on that quake before we move on to more stuff, as there's still plenty of things to cover. So stay tuned. Looks like it could have been felt in Anchorage. Please leave a comment if you felt that quake. Next is the volcano rundown. We're going to look at today's volcano, starting with Shivaluch, which is exploding and producing a 13,000-foot ash plume. Now, also, activity continues. 5,000-foot ash plume there. Sakurajima back on the list. Welcome back, Sakurajima. Volcanic ash cloud of 6,000 feet there. Mount Dakono, 6,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl, reporting some new volcanic emissions. Revenador, 16,000-foot ash plume there and explosive activity. Sabancaya also exploding, 24,000-foot ash plume there. And please do not do a triple Lindy over Nevados de Chilean, as it's producing a 12,000-foot ash plume and exploding. That could be unhelpful. Check out lightningmaps.org next time you hear thunder. What do we got here? Looks like Minnesota. Minnesota getting hit again. A lone bolt just hit Minneapolis. Check it out. Let's move on to windy.com. Look at the pressure maps here. Let it advance one day. You'll be able to see where that hurricane is headed, courtesy of the GFS model. There's the pressure map. Let's allow that to advance one day, as that hurricane looks like it's heading back out into the Atlantic. And for that, South Carolina thanks you. And here's about where things will be in 24 hours from the time I made this video. High pressure to move into the northeast of the U.S. And yeah, I have no other comment. Check out AccuWeather's Doppler radar. Looking at this storm over Minnesota. See if we can figure out if anybody's in the crosshairs. Land of a million lakes. Glenwood. Juanita. All right, let's move on here, as there's still plenty of stuff to look at. Not sure if we're going to do a second video or not today, folks. And looking at the jet streams of the Western world here on Null School. Extreme meridional jet stream flow in the south as well as the north. No surprises there. It's been going on for the entire solar minimum. Here's the jet streams of the eastern world. And let's continue on. Oh no, form submission. And here's the NASA GOES shortwave animation. This satellite used to see clouds when it's nighttime and too dark to see clouds otherwise. The eye's looking a little wobbly of that hurricane. Let's zoom in. And there's the current state of affairs, complete with date stamp, date and time stamp. Doesn't look particularly organized. Let's look at the stratosphere. There's the jet stream on Null School. over the top of that hurricane, and we do see an upper level wind input there. So that thing is going to keep going for a couple days here at least. Let's go back to the satellite animations. And there it is in the shortwave once again. Not looking particularly organized at the surface, but when you see that stratospheric input, that's an indication that this thing is going to hold out. And here's the water vapor view. And we don't see any dry air mixed into the eye there, so no indication that it's really going to weaken too much. Although there is a bunch of dry air hitting the outer bands to the storm's west. And this is part of what's going to be pushing it out to the ocean, folks. It's going to be headed to the northeast here, and that's a good thing for the East Coast, as we don't need any more beach erosion. And we're going to blast right through that is censored, and that is a hole in the ground, otherwise known as the censored versus sinkhole section. Were you aware that Google is a complete scam and not a verb? Were you aware that Google will not obtain objective search results for you? Were you aware that Google shakes down channels like ours to try to get us to pay them money, even though they pay us precisely nothing for this YouTube channel? If you got to see advertisements today, folks, it's because our channel is monetized for YouTube, not for us. Let's talk about another scam. Oh, healthcare. Part of the problem with healthcare, folks, is that there's no market. In other words, you don't know how much an MRI costs. You don't know how much a tooth extraction costs. Part of the reason why prices go down with things like LASIK surgery is because there's a market for it. Folks are competing to figure out who can do it more efficiently, better, etc. Part of the problem with healthcare in the U.S. is Medicare, as there's massive amounts of waste, abuse, and fraud going on. We left links to the article from USA Today by Marty McCary, who is a doctor at Johns Hopkins. He's a professor and author of the new book, The Price What We Pay, What Broke American Healthcare. What we need is a market for healthcare where you shop around and you say, hey, I'd like to have my appendix removed. How much do you charge for that? Get it? Anyway, again, links to the article below the video. There's nothing that's broken that we can't fix, folks. Believe it or not. Do you follow us on social media? For instance, on Facebook, one of the shadow banning capitals of the world, along with YouTube and Twitter. We are on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on Gab. There's the page on Gab. Check out thumbnails. Good times. We're also on Minds. Minds.com/smAsho, the social media that will not censor you, shadow ban you, or deplatform you. Check it out. We just hit 501,000 views. Finally hit 500,000 views, despite only having 709 subscribers. So check out the open source social media, Minds.com. The future of social media. Watch it blow up this winter. You can even earn crypto if you get a lot of views. Also, if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Press the notification bell. And if you really like the content and you want to see stuff come out earlier, check us out on Patreon. It's $9.99 a month. Don't join at the $1 level. It evaporates. Let's talk about the Northern Hemisphere just having its warmest summer on record. And according to communist rag, the Washington Post, here's the article, and there are links in the description. Were you aware that we're not aware of the Earth's temperature? Do we know how warm the Indian Ocean is at 3 meters? Nope. You see, Earth's thermal capacity does not lie in the atmosphere. By the way, this is the National Data Buoy Center. Were you aware that the Earth's thermal capacity does not lie in the atmosphere, but it lies deep, deep in the oceans? As less than 1% of the planet's thermal capacity lies in the atmosphere. So you can measure the ocean surface temperature all day, and you can measure the atmosphere all day. And until you know the temperatures deep in the ocean, which we don't know, by the way, you don't even know the Earth's climate. You don't know the temperature. You don't know the climate. So all of these ideas about global warming, I mean, hey, look at the thermosphere index, folks. Go to spaceweather.com, click on the thermosphere index, and understand the real inputs of the way atmospheric physics works. Let's talk about carbon footprints, something that has nothing to do with temperature. Phys.org article talking about to address hunger, many countries may have to increase their carbon footprint. Now, we implore you to go out back and burn a tire, as we would prefer to see carbon levels at about 1,000 or perhaps 1,200, the optimal level to grow plants, as opposed to not even 450 where we are right now. By the way, plants stop growing around the low 300s. So as far as carbon sequestration technology, we're a little bit against that. Also, we're completely against things like the ScopeX program and any sort of geoengineering efforts, as they're not local enough to do anything you really want to do. Link to this article also about different possibilities and carbon footprints, and oh my gosh, the planet's burning up, and it has something to do with carbon dioxide, even though Earth's thermal capacity is less than 1% in the atmosphere, and of the atmosphere, 0.04% is carbon dioxide, and of that tiny portion, humans only are contributing about 30% of that. That's not anything that's measurable. So there's that. Let's go back to space. How about a microsecond pulsar? This is a good indication, a good little diagram here, explaining how we see these changes in the radio waves. Now we're not going to say things like relativity. We're not going to say anything like relativity or gravity waves, but another interesting article about the most massive neutron star ever measured. And we'll just call it a massive radio source. But read the article, as there's some good science on J0740 plus 6620. Lastly, let's talk about Tabby's star. Now, this star has been known for over 100 years to be a variable star, and lots of theories and conjectures about what's causing it. The latest one is that there's an exoplanet there which had a moon, and the star stripped off the moon, and it's slowly breaking the moon apart, and that's what's causing its variability. Another theory, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, just citing the fact that there is another theory to explain the dimming of Tabby's star, and it does not involve an alien megastructure. Thanks for tuning in, Smash Team, and stay tuned for one bonus feature. Oh yeah, it's my personal favorite, the 171 angstrom view. See some bright spots up here, as well as some bright X-ray spots setting over here. So there's a little activity kicking off, folks. It looks like the solar minimum looks like cycle 25 is pretty much on schedule for our forecasts. So thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Please stay spaced out. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink, and if you drink, stare at the sun anyway, just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.